Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another episode of No More Kids in Scientology. Today's episode, you guys, is a continuation of the conversations that we are having as we are all sitting here demanding accountability, demanding the facts to be exposed on their face. Um, this book, From Here to the Great Unknown, you can see in the back of it is two kids that grew up in Scientology. Riley and Lisa are two kids that grew up with Scientology. And today we are advocating for no more kids to be in Scientology. And we have a special surprise guest that is going to join us today and is going to be speaking to us about her experience with Lisa and Danielle Riley. So to get started with what this live is about, you guys, we want to talk about what does it mean to really kind of grow up in Scientology and what are we recovering from? Because that's been a big question that's been coming. There's a lot of new people coming from the Elvis world that are asking a lot of very good questions and need a lot of context as to this family's involvement in Scientology that has been purposely watered down, purposely washed up. And oh yeah, we barely were there, but thankfully we have this book that is corroborating a lot of things about Scientology and Lisa's experience. So I'm going to just read you this prepared statement that I did to kind of gather my thoughts and talk about the journey to healing, recovering from growing up in Scientology. No more kids in Scientology. Trauma from growing up in Scientology doesn't just fade in time. It is a wound that cuts deep, sharpening every aspect of how you see the world, how you relate to others, how you view yourself as so-called adults in small bodies. People who have been through it will say things like, well, that haven't been through it will say things like, well, why don't you just move on? And everything about this trauma is complex as fuck. Everything. Nothing is simple. The trauma from living under a system that is so insidious that it invades every part of your life from childhood to adulthood. And healing from it is a fight that often feels like it's effectively never ending. Growing up in Scientology, you're taught that questioning anything, your experiences, your pain, your entire reality is wrong. And it's in fact a deficiency that they call, with a euphemistic term, aberration. So anything Scientology doesn't want you to feel or experience or that is going to lead you to waking up, they go and call that an aberration. So you are conditioned to suppress, to pretend to keep up the facade that everything is great and amazing. And even when you as a kid is breaking inside, you are told to come uptone, which is tantamount to false exhilaration, because otherwise you are told that you're being a problem. Children are labeled problems by their Scientology parents. Pretending never heals you. All it does is bury the trauma deeper until it controls you in ways that you don't even comprehend. Healing from that kind of damage is not easy whatsoever. It's super messy and it is actually painful AF. Pain that you disassociated from in your trauma. It resurfaces and now you have to face it without that mental anesthesia brought to you by disassociation. It all does seem extremely masochistic, but yet the pain does leave once it's confronted. It is something that takes time, sometimes longer than you would like, mostly because we become aware that there are no timelines or states to achieve. This recovery journey requires daily commitment. It is all baby steps. You fall, you crawl, you walk one baby step at a time. Scientology teaches you to constantly blame yourself for not being good enough or clear enough. So when you finally do break free, it's almost impossible to stop that voice in your head, to get rid of all the fake definitions that were pitched by convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard and his utterly BS definitions that were meant to override your ability to perceive the facts and constantly hijack your awareness and nervous system. You start the journey out of the trauma with a mind that's been trained to keep hurting you. So much of the trauma was living inside of your own body that was by design, not by mistake. Is it even possible to heal? I know it doesn't feel that way sometimes, especially when you spend your entire life inside a system that gaslights you into believing that the type of circumstances that Scientology placed us in as children that were supposed to result in a lot of freedom resulted in a lot of pain. Pain that they were molding you with, to always think that everything was your fault. In fact, anytime you don't see it as your fault, you are told that you need to take more responsibility. The first baby step to recovery is realizing trauma wasn't your fault. As children, none of us ever had the capacity to choose this. You didn't ask to grow up in a cult. We didn't ask to be stripped away of our sense of self and replace it with fear, control, and sadistic practices that are not safe for any child to be placed in a harmful power dynamic imbalance between children and adults. Power dynamic imbalances that are indefensible. Those power dynamic imbalances are what the Scientology parents molded for themselves, as their grandmaster daddy, convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard, told them to. Healing begins when you start unlearning all the lies they spoon-fed you and groomed you with teddy bears and dolls. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Unlearning and repudiating the strong chokehold that L. Ron Hubbard and his consenting adult surrogates had over you as a child is very hard. You have to face parts of yourself that are so deeply damaged by years of manipulation, coercion, unthinkable invasions of privacy, and total betrayal blindness. You have to acknowledge that you've been hurt in ways that were cruel and systematic and institutional, and that this took place at an industrial size scale. Entire hotels, entire commercial buildings filled to the top with kids. You have to see the pain in you to be able to see the pain in others. Being able to see and acknowledge that pain is real, and that is the only way forward to be able to reconcile the facts outside of the sanitized, highly curated, false narratives. When you grow up in Scientology, trauma is minimized, ignored, or worse, treated as if it was your fault. They condition you to believe that if you're suffering, it's because you haven't processed enough or you haven't cleared enough. But in reality, all that processing was just another way of keeping you trapped in a cycle of pain. And when you don't fall in line, more isolation, more punishment, more ways for them to strip you of your autonomy and your sense of worth. but we're not broken and we're not beyond repair. That's what they wanted us to believe, but it is not true. The fact that we've made it this far, that we're even thinking of healing, is proof that they didn't succeed in breaking us. They tried. They tried so hard to make us believe that we were nothing without them. But here we are, standing in our truth, ready to rebuild. Recovery is about reclaiming your sense of self, the parts of you that Scientology tried to erase. It's about realizing that it is okay to have boundaries, to say no, to protect your peace. For so long, we were told to suppress our instincts, to silence our doubts, to keep going along with the program of going up a delusional bridge that went nowhere, but the land of abuse and unfeathered access to fair game all minors. There is no going back. There's only going and moving forward. Healing doesn't mean erasing, much less floating away, the pain. It means learning how to live with it, how to integrate it into us without it letting control our future. That's what they deliver at those Scientology hotels from hell. They delivered you to hell. Funny enough, Daddy, that's the only religious aspect of the story. And let's get one thing clear. We don't owe anyone forgiveness. There's this idea that in order to heal, you have to forgive those who hurt you. But let me tell you right now, you don't. You don't have to forgive the people who kept you trapped, the people who manipulated and abused you, the people who stood by and did nothing while you suffered, and everyone watched it on video and read it on PC folders, aka their blackmail case. That they were told it would be a great idea to really build for themselves. What all of you need to do is focus on freeing yourselves from the shame, the guilt, and the grip that trauma has on your life. There is no straight line to recovery, and it is not an easy path. But each step forward, no matter how small, is still a step. Some days just surviving is an accomplishment. And that's okay. Healing isn't about racing to some finish line. It's about doing the hard work day by day and being able to be kind to yourself in the process. We were told over and over again to deny our pain, to pretend that it didn't exist. But now it is time to acknowledge it. Now it is time to say, I was hurt, and the hurt was real. Only then can we start to let go, not because we're erasing the trauma, but because we're reclaiming the power from it. The trauma takes your inherent power away. To anyone who's walking this path, try to figure out how to live outside of the system that tried to break you, because you're not alone. We've all had moments where we felt like there was never going to be okay again. And here's the truth. You are already on your way. Every time you question what they taught you, every time you push back against their inner voice that tells you to doubt yourself, you are healing. It is slow and it is hard, but it is worth it AF. You don't have to be the person your Scientology parent groomed you to be. You just have to be you. And trust me, after everything you've been through, that person is more than enough. Because you can have your own back, because that is self-love. Turns out that is all we ever needed to actually be free. And the good news is that self-love is also totally free. No more kids in Scientology, because kids cannot consent.
I agree 100%. I loved all of that. Every time you question what they taught you, every time you push back against that inner voice that tells you to doubt yourself, you're healing. I like that. I mean, I liked a lot of things in that, but yeah. Man, oh man.
Well, and there's no one size fits all. There's no silver bullet. There's no shortcut. There's no special rundown that you're really going to get where anything is going to be easy. For every kid that grew up in Scientology, nothing is going to be easy. The minute they wake up from this nightmare, that's where things get worse and worse and worse. And that's what those abusers are counting on. They don't want you to wake up from the betrayal because they're counting the betrayal almost nearly puts you as effective roadkill on the street when you realize all the betrayal that you've been put up for. How much it was normalized, how little you ever mattered as a child inside of those hotels to your own parent, which, no child wants to wake up one day and go, oh, my parents didn't care about me. What child wants to go, yeah, my parents were child trafficking me. Oh, yeah, it really is amazing to be me. Oh, yeah, I had a great childhood.
From being so suppressed by all the things that I was just forced, like, oh, okay, if I'm doing this, then I must be, the next, amazing child or not so child, but adult growing up in this. Like, oh, good, I can be the next example. So I must be doing this. Otherwise, I'm doing out ethics. I'm being out ethics. I'm being somebody else. I'm having somebody else's valence.
And that's something that we keep seeing in this book that I just started reviewing, Laura. Like,
Yeah.
Lisa was always so hard on herself.
Yep.
She
And I
always
saw
felt like
that.
she was a mess. She always felt like she didn't have it together, that there was something really wrong with her, that she was really stupid, that she was very degraded, that she was like, the last 10 years of her life were the roughest for her. And instead of people coming up to pull her up, they just, what we said in this exact write up, it's like they just throw more shit on you. Because anytime you're not pretending that you got it all together, I'm fully sorted out. Oh, look at me doing a lot of production, getting a lot of awards. That's all Scientology wants from their slaves who think that they're on the driver's seat. Lisa thought she was on the driver's seat. And I mean, you knew her. What would you say you observe her be the effect of when she was there with all of this disaster? Like, how old were you?
I was so when I got to know her, it was when I had been demoted from the Commodore's Messenger org, and I was like 15 years old, and I was put as a public areas cleaner, as like a degraded, as an amends for being demoted from this high org, and so my job like included cleaning all the outside public areas, which included all the outside by the condos, and every year.
At the Fort
And that was everything. Yeah, at the Fort Harrison Hotel. First, I was a cleaner at the Sandcastle. So I had also gotten to see Lisa and Priscilla. And certain points, I was actually watching, babysitting, taking over for Jet, nannying Ella while the other nanny was taking care of Jet because Jet was having a moment or needed help, literally, and they were just there having the nanny take care of it, probably give him a location or whatever. So there was always these little moments of being in the Sea organization, contracted under a billion-year contract, where I had these interactions. And so then after the Sandcastle, I was put over at the Fort Harrison Hotel. And so there I was cleaning like the railings and the elevators and all kinds of things out by the pool, and just being around, making sure that the overall public areas of the Fort Harrison were impeccable. Like literally impeccable, like having to, and I remember Riley and Ben laughing at me like, ha ha, why does she, and Ben yelled out, why does she have to do that? And Riley doesn't. It was like a funny joke, like, they're almost the same age, and Ben was just being funny, like, such a sweetheart. And all I was doing was cleaning the gold railings in the lobby, every single fingerprint and smudge on it, so that they were shiny and magical. And And so they were making fun of me because previously I had gone over to the condo area. And just because I had also friends that were previously on the EPF, which is the group you start when you join the Sea Org, when you're joining the Sea Org. And at that age, I was 13, 14. And some of these friends were people like Scott Carr, Larissa Smith, Georgie Flores, Larissa. There was another Larissa. What's his name? Kevin. He's been, anyways, there was a bunch of these similar age people I felt they were a few years younger than me that I got to know through the EPF that were all friends with Danielle, Riley, and the family, especially like Georgie and because I also was in CMO, there's weird connections here because I was in the Commodores Messenger org. I also at a certain point was very close with Mary, the president, at FSO. Yeah, this is now the flag. This is supposed to be, wasn't this? They might have upgraded, right?
This is the lobby of the Fort Harrison. This is the lobby of the Fort Harrison, and there's the golden railings right there. You guys see?
Yeah, literally up. Yeah, exactly. And so all those, and especially these stairwells up to the hibiscus. Those were the ones I was cleaning when Ben and Riley came running in to go eat up at the hibiscus at their private tables, which you were talking about. All the public and the whole atmosphere would be like, ooh, the Presleys are in town, and oh, the Presleys are, they're taking up the whole condo, that whole condo ledge. There would be like 9 condos. So you see, there's all these the meals. Don't think that when you come to Fort Flag, the mecca of Scientology, don't think that you're coming here and your package is paid for and everything's paid for. No, you're paying for the auditing. You're paying money. You're paying a huge chunk of money to paying for just the bridge alone. You're paying for that. And then you're paying thousands of dollars to stay at the hotel that they're demanding that you stay at. It's out of fish to fry. It's not on purpose if you're living off base. It's I forget what they called it, but they literally made it like a saying, like this is other fish to fry, not command intention. You should be supporting the hotels of Scientology. So you're not allowed to go to Clearwater and actually just be a Scientologist on services, doing anything. You have to actually be in the hotel, getting a room at the hotel. It's considered not okay if you're getting another hotel in Clearwater other than Scientology. So just so you other Clearwater people know, they do not pull in you non-Scientologists. They do not pull in people to your Clearwater. They're pulling them in directly and only for Scientology. The other thing is, so you also have to pay for all the meals.
Right behind us, there's
the hibiscus shrimp.
Right, but there's a receptionist.
Yep.
When I was there was being manned by this girl named Carla Sedeco, who was a minor from Italy that was brought there to be the person that was the reception, in charge of the reception. Imagine having a hotel job 24/7, 365. And again, this is all pitched as, oh, you really are a volunteer. You're not really, doing anything, but it is a hotel. And this is where Lisa and Riley would be. And then there was an underage Lara hanging around because your parents were not celebrities. And again, all of our parents had different statuses. Like our parents were not celebrities. Our parents were people that, in Lara's case, they were literally at the gold base in California. And in my case, they were first started as Sea Org members for the first 5 years of my life, but then they left and then they came back to be so-called public. So they were the ones that were paying to be serviced by underage kids. So that's what needs to be understood, because everybody goes, oh, we really need to save the Sea Org members. Well, the Sea Org members are the ones that are offering the kids to the grown adults that go there and do get to do courses, ethics handlings, and audits with underage kids. That
was also one of the other things. I was an ethics officer. See, almost the 3 years that I was underage, being in the Clearwater, leaving from the Int Ranch, right? So I've never experienced anything else other than in the outside world, longer than going to a movie or being next to my parents during a funeral for 3 days and then going back. Like there's no experience of the outside world. So going to Clearwater, Florida, I really felt in my world that I was going out into the outside world, let alone you're going into a more deeper, condensed out like version of the planet of Scientology. But so there was a point before I was the CMO, before I was in the Commoner's Messenger organization, I was an ethics officer. I was a master at arms at the Fort Harrison Hotel. And that means first I did it for the staff. Once they knew that I could do it well with the staff. I then did it. I was then a public MAA receptionist and then an MAA at the Fort Harrison Hotel. So I was doing ethics programs, writing ethics programs for people who were masturbating, who were committing legal fraud on the IRS, who were scamming using different company names and just all kinds of things like people cheating on their wives, homosexuality, all kinds of things.
There's
and
no subject that is off limits.
There's
guys.
no subject.
When we talk about kids being made to pretend that they're adults, again, they take it to the nth degree. They take it really, really far. But don't you think it's interesting that we know that Lisa was not like our parents. We know that Lisa was protective of Ben and Riley. We know that she wanted them to be kids. She wanted them. They were not being stuck in courses. I mean, Nora did a little bit of work clearing with Riley, but for the most part, you know, she just did a little bit of it. Like she almost kept it to the minimum, right?
I don't know. I do remember that, like, I don't know what do you mean about the minimum, because definitely Lisa would send Riley in for a sec check any fucking moment if she fucking felt that Riley needed a sec check. And who would set it up? Mary from the president's office. And I remember that their arguments or the upsets, when Riley would be upset, it would be about stuff like that. And shitty enough, there would have to be times where Lisa would have to use you're being H&R, or you're being, down tone. What overts are you committing? Like, why are you giving me this tone level? She would try to hold the idea of being a good Scientologist, but then there would be the times where she would just be like, babe, like, hey, come talk to me. Are you listening? Let's be clean with, like, there's, so you could see the love and connection and the protection. She had the protection. She would be like, Riley, keep your ethics in.
Our parents they never had another mode. Our parents were always, get a sec check, you're disgusting, you're degraded, there's something wrong with you. And Lisa would, like what you're saying, fluctuate. She wasn't fully pushing it on her. But I mean, again, it's the cycle of abuse, you guys. And talking about being a third generation, when your parents and your grandparents are involved, you as a child you identify with them. You have to. For your own survival, you have to identify as them. Because otherwise, and especially in Scientology, if you're not identifying as them, as a child, you'll be terrorized by them. What do you mean L. Ron Hubbard is an idiot? What do you mean L. Ron Hubbard is disgusting? How could you say that about the Commodore? What's wrong with you? You're a disgusting child. Like, no child can say, well, I think L. Ron Hubbard is weird. And I think that teaching people a language that is all word salad is completely stupid. How dare you say that about L. Ron Hubbard? What is wrong with you? You're going to get sec checked. You're going to get this. You're going to get that. And that is the disgusting aspect of Scientology. Parents outsourcing Scientology handlers, paying Scientology handlers to handle their child. And Lisa also did it, because Priscilla did this on her to the nth degree. Horrific. Like,
that same manipulation that Priscilla still to this day has. The way I see her when Riley's around, when they're talking interaction, is the same manipulation that Priscilla had with Lisa, and then Lisa had it slightly with Riley. It's the same Scientology, like, I have control over you, and I know what you're really doing, so don't act like you're fucking innocent. And that's so sad, because Riley half the time was literally fucking innocent.
Well, all kids are. At the end of the day, that's why adults need to have common sense, boundaries. They cannot be groomed since they were children to normalize abuse. And again, going back to Lisa being bamboozled and groomed to do this, like, It's very, very hard to de-identify, to deprogram from it when that shit is living in your brain. And when there is no source that's counteracting that devastation that's happening to you. Because the problem is, like, people haven't advocated for all the kids that grew up in Scientology. The parents that grew up in Scientology, guess what my sister's doing now? My sister is exposing her own child to what? To the garbage that she was exposed to. And again, some kids got it worse than others. Like, what you went through, what I went through, we know. Like, I would have traded places with Riley any day of the literal week. We were always jealous of them because, oh my God, it would be so great to be them because, they got F with way less than us because there was some sort of inherent protection around them.
Yeah.
Those are the kids that if you did something wrong and they complained to Lisa,
Yep.
the person that did that at the hotel would see the wrath of God. We didn't have anyone.
Lisa would go directly to the president.
If we got F with, our parents said, you deserved it, figure it out for yourselves. So it's that nuance of, like, and I always go, like, the Scientology parents are out of their MF minds. But even in that conversation, there's the nuance and there's the buckets and there's the cycles of abuse and there's the correct context to see it, because Lisa never said, I'm going to choose this for myself. Priscilla shoved this down her throat, lied to her at every opportunity, and pretended that the deficiencies that Lisa had going on in her life were all because she wasn't Scientologist enough, or you're just not applying the ethics enough. And Lisa was running always on a deficit of that, trying to prove to her mom that she was out of her mind herself. And Priscilla, who always looks like she's got it all together and she's really, it's giving psycho vibes. It's like she has no feelings. She has no emotions. She laughs when she talks about her daughter and I loved her to death. I mean, that's what she said in her latest interview, Laura. Like, oh, my Lisa, oh yeah, she would say a lot of things. I love her to death. It's like, she's not here anymore, Priscilla. And you laugh. She was laughing. Like, laughing.
No, that's just it's so insane. It's the whole drop the body and now Priscilla doesn't have to put up with her behavior, with Lisa's behavior anymore. So yeah, she's like, I loved her. She just never understood my manipulation.
Yeah. And I mean, again, Lisa shielded Riley and Ben from Priscilla because she didn't trust her and she didn't want her around. Like, Lisa was on to you, Priscilla, way more than you let out to be, because you pretend to be, oh, we have it really going on. And because she always made it about, like, oh, you need me because I'm part of the Elvis Presley legacy. And meanwhile, Priscilla, you had already divorced him. You were already suing him for the second time to go get more money for yourself. Like, this is when Elvis, again, was doing in his latest, baddest years, right? Priscilla went and sued him again to try to get more money out of him and created such.
Priscilla's been doing that though. Like, Priscilla was always the one who was like, Lisa, we need to get you onto the level. And like Priscilla, they were all like, it was Priscilla squeezing, it was always the mixture of John Travolta and Priscilla and Kelly Preston and the kids and, their little clique, their group. And Priscilla needs that. She needs that, idealistic kind of like, look at her now. She looks completely fucking insane. She looks insane. And there's so much that she doesn't say because she acts like such a light, sweet character, yet she's so deeply vicious and has done so many things her way, her route, has made her own granddaughter shut down to a point where she only acts a certain way around Priscilla. I can't imagine I hope someday to see Danielle Riley open up completely when Priscilla is no longer here. I hope she can do that before.
It's very hard because,
it is very hard.
She's now the head of a trust.
Yeah.
And she has to now act as the head of this trust. And, Priscilla sued Riley and Lisa after Lisa passed away. Then Priscilla went and got another attorney to sue. She spent $400,000 suing them so that she could get her way again. And she did. She got to a degree. I mean, Riley put some boundaries there, whatever. But, they have to have this back to this united front after she always, soils herself in public and then goes, oh, what is everyone having a problem with? It's like, who doesn't see what you're doing, Priscilla, other than yourself? Because we see it. We saw it. We didn't understand it. But when you were around, my mom, I always talk about this. My mom was like so proud that Priscilla was part of her cult.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
she
Oh,
was
the Presleys are
recruiting.
here. Yeah.
Priscilla was recruiting people to come.
Yeah.
She was lending her celebrity face, her celebrity name, her celebrity endorsement
for superpower fundraisers, etc.
So
yep. And
that's
she was the one keeping Lisa Marie and everybody in line. And she was with her fucking evil little manipulation, like women little tactics.
they all had to be in Scientology was the manipulation, guys, because that's how Priscilla was controlling everybody. That's how she's controlled all of them. She ensnared him in Scientology, something that Elvis was extremely against, something that would have made Elvis Presley a full-blown suppressive person. So for all of you that go, oh yeah, but Priscilla said that Elvis was her soulmate and her love of her life, BS. Priscilla's love of her life is L. Ron Hubbard. So for all of you that are confused, Priscilla's love of her literal life, who she gave her kids to, who she gave all of Elvis's money to, who she did everything for, was in furtherance of the bidding of the convicted felon named L. Ron Hubbard, that she worshipped. Like, if you thought that she was worshiping Elvis, as she always puts it, oh yeah, I had no identity past Elvis. Well, she went from having no identity past Elvis, as she claims it was for her. Others would disagree with her and said, you know what, you kind of had it really good for yourself. You actually were given a lot, Priscilla. But, it's never enough with this woman. It's what the problem is. It's never enough. It's always she wants more and more and more. And like you said, it's all artificially propped up because she's not organically anything on her own. And she knew that. That's why she's at a place called Celebrity Center, you guys, because to your point, Lara, she needed to be told she was a celebrity.
Yeah.
She on her own never really got anywhere. She never got momentum. She always used, I'm Priscilla Presley. Even after she was married to a guy with Garibaldi last name, she wouldn't even take that last name because she was like, oh no, I'm Elvis Presley Enterprises. And that's what she ran on both Riley and Lisa. Oh, I saved you. Oh, I made you all this money. BS. Riley didn't exist yet. Lisa was too young to understand. You had the entire Scientology apparatus literally figuring out how to gain control over that family's influence and money.
Yeah. There's so much money. They have spent so much money, just let alone living in Celebrity Center, living at the Fort Harrison Hotel, living at the Sandcastle Hotel.
Hotels, you guys,
living like just
offers them hotel accommodation.
Months. Yeah, and they're paying hotel rates and fees. They are not getting any fucking cheap deals. So millions and millions of dollars of Elvis Presley's money, which he specifically said, I don't want my family getting involved in this. What did Priscilla do? Priscilla is the responsible. If Priscilla said we're out, the family would have been out. Lisa, again, wouldn't have had the choice anyways.
Because Priscilla groomed everybody.
Yeah.
And again, she falsely pitched that she had a power and she had a knack for this and she had an ability to do whatever. But all she had the ability to do is to get herself placed high ranking in a pyramid scheme cult where Priscilla was very high up in the celebrity world of that, recruiting members, getting her 10% checks. How many times did you cash a check for bringing people in, Priscilla? Because that's what you were doing. So as much as you pretend,
she learned that from John Travolta. John Travolta is catching still to this day, getting checks from Scientology or getting money direct deposited into his accounts for being field staff members for random people that come in and say, if somebody comes into the organization and says, I'm a fan of John Travolta's, that's why I'm here, John Travolta gets that money. John Travolta gets 10% or whatever it is as a commission as a field staff member. So John Travolta has ties with Scientology. He can never leave unless he openly exposes everything that he's a part of and that he's covered up. Same with Tom Cruise, same with everybody in there. That's the whole point of Scientology. It's a blackmailing machine. They're doing it now in Elvis Presley's family. They got their whole roots in all of that. They did it in the Masterson family. They did it. They do it with the Minkoffs. They're doing it. They have everybody connected in all the illegal behavior, and everybody secretly covering it up because all they had to do was write a knowledge report, and then they went and saw ethics. That was me. They would come see me. I would write I would program the same thing. Go read this. Oh, you were masturbating? Go read, the clean hands makes a happy life. Go read the masturbating session in the bulletin that is so dirty that everybody has to read 24/7 because that book is never put down because that's what everybody's doing. It's just it's a crime, sex, like little laundering station where people can get away with all this crap, and then at the expense of children and people who have no idea what they're getting into, where they no longer can consent to their own choices. And then you have people like Riley trying to balance it out as she's getting it out and getting into her own childhood or into her own motherhood and being like, wow, the amount of time I'm with my child and love, and where you can't fool people once they grow up, especially when they're in the outside world having a reflection of it now. And hopefully we're a reflection for Riley and for her friends and Georgie and Larissa and everybody else that was part of that clique in Clearwater, the kids in Clearwater, that you thought you were so fucking cool because you were all friends attached to each other. You're not fucking cool. It's all fucking shameful. Speak up, talk about it, be happy about what you have now and that you've gotten out of it mentally. Bring up the awareness. Riley, I wish Riley would just speak up about this.
Well, and moreover, you have a responsibility because the kids are still there. That's what we always go back to. Like, underage kids are still there. Thanks to all the streamers that have been going all around all the orgs worldwide, documenting the amount of kids that are still exposed to this. Nothing changed since we left those hotels. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed since we've spoken up. Nothing.
No, they've just tightened down.
Nothing has been reined back. No guardrails have been put in place. They haven't admitted that they've done anything wrong ever. They get very pressed. They're highly allergic to be confronted. When they're doing something wrong, they don't want to hear it. When any streamer goes outside and tells them, oh, you're in a cult, oh, blah, 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 I can't hear you. I don't care what the hell you have to say. I know better. You're an idiot.
Right. That's false data.
That's their stand. And these are full-grown adults we're talking about. But again, going back to the aspect of kids being ensnared in this process where they cannot consent, no wonder. I mean, what was your relationship with Ben? Because, we have published what he stated on the public record about Scientology really messing him up.
Yeah. So I just knew Ben was so shy at the Fort Harrison Hotel. I knew that he had, from what I observed, he was always sort of like pissed off. Like, he was always like, he was a sweet kid, but it was always like only his mom could like handle him, or, like when he would get upset, and I'm not sure exactly. I think it was like having to do a course or something, and he didn't want to go and do the course. He was like, no, mom, I just want to chill or be lazy or whatever it was. And there had to be some kind of push or like some sort of like toughness with Lisa and him in the sweetness that he was. But there was this definite, and I have to say the same thing that Priscilla did with Lisa, and like just the suppression of the voice, suppression of not being able to say how you really feel because you already know the consequences of it. So I can't imagine what Ben really wanted to tell the world and wanted to tell his mom and wanted to be open and okay with, that he thought was so aberrated and wrong with him, that he then, like, it just felt like it felt like 45 years later, all of a sudden he's unaliving himself. This is unbelievable. Scientology did that. There is no excuse that such a loving mother like Lisa, who did care, and no matter what form she was trying to do shit, she did care about her son and her daughter extremely, and didn't want them to fall into any situations where she felt depression or not the free person that she wanted to be. That's her control of Riley and Ben. It was just that, leave my kids out of this. Let them just grow up and be kids. Don't be so harsh on them, because Lisa was so harsh on herself. Because Priscilla was so harsh on herself and on Lisa. I just think that Priscilla, like you put it, to make it clear to the Scientology audience watching, Priscilla has her own deep out ethics, and she has shit that she covers up for people that also have deep out ethics. Illegal. I'm talking deep means illegal out ethics. That Priscilla knows about other celebrities' out ethics. Now, remember who brought in Priscilla and everybody, right? So you get Tom Cruise and John Travolta and all these people who are getting away with their own out ethics by paying money, by auditing all of this out, and then bringing in other people to get rid of their own out ethics through auditing. So they all have their own mutual out routes, and they're all saying it's all okay. Well, if this isn't okay, then all the stuff that John Travolta and Tom Cruise are doing is completely fucking illegal. So everybody's in on it. And here you have Lisa and Ben and everybody leaving.
Speaking of John Travolta, 4th of July, 1978. So this is after Priscilla was brought in. L. Ron Hubbard did a broad public issue. John Travolta has major contributions in, guess where? The dissemination of Dianetics and Scientology. On his many international comm lines, he routinely mentions the wins that he's had using the technologies of Dianetics and Scientology. In recognition of this outstanding contribution, John is hereby presented with a service award of $1,500 for his next course at the Flag Land Base L. Ron Hubbard founder. And
that was from L. Ron Hubbard. So John Travolta is doing
community
this.
tab. In the community tab, here's from L. Ron Hubbard himself giving John Travolta money, paying him. He's a paid surrogate, John Travolta. So for all of you that go, oh, we really need to save him. How are you going to save him if he's literally the grandmaster daddy of this disgusting operation? Paid dude. He's a paid bro. He got paid to bring people. Hey, John, how much can we pay you to bring us the next family? Oh, you think you can get the Presleys in? Oh, you have no idea the type of payment we could give you for that, John. Here's one of $1,500 of the literal L. Ron Hubbard paying you that, John Travolta. So for all of you that want to go, oh, but John Travolta seems so sweet and innocent. These people are literal actors. They use their charisma to obfuscate who they are. They train themselves. They media train themselves to, like Priscilla always does, although her mask is really slipping, coming off. All that Botox and fillers are just like making her whole face a blob. But they are media trained.
Poofy face. Sorry.
They're literally media trained them. Oh, sound really relatable. Just talk about things that could be very in reality because, oh yeah, you know, we really want to keep everyone in ARC, Priscilla. Just this, you guys, this is the stupid triangle. If you say a lot of things that people can agree with, then they're affinity races. That means they're going to love you more. They're going to want to communicate with you more.
The communication is actually on the top.
And they're going to
not spoil the tech.
And they're going to understand you so well. Yeah, but the top and the bottom, they told you that.
That's why they say universal solvent is communication.
Yeah, but that was also bullshit. Because here, if you have a lot of affinity, like, then they want to have a lot of communication for you, and they will have a lot of to have a reality in common. So it's using this manipulative triangle to filter all your interactions with people so that you come off as fake as you possibly can, to put up an image out there of who you are. But behind closed doors, these people were the polar opposite of that, because this is all just as fake as it gets.
And another thing I want to add is that John Travolta also made money, 10% or whatever the agreed amount is in Scientology, off of all the condos and all the things. Any money bringing in people, you get a percentage of the booking, whatever it is. And it's not just John Travolta. Tom Cruise
payroll for decades. In what world would you not press for money, John Travolta? Imagine having you, the whole world, Hollywood, saying you're so amazing and wonderful, and it wasn't enough, because nothing was ever enough for you. You just wanted more, 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 just like your little buddy Priscilla. Y'all are so gluttonous. You cannot get enough. You're always, oh, tell me I'm so great. Tell me I'm wonderful. How many children are in Scientology because you put your face to this bullshit, John Travolta?
Literally. Millions.
How many times was that brought up in your family, Laura? Oh, but John Travolta, aren't we so proud that we're in the same cult as John Travolta? Oh, we're not calling it cult, but they weren't calling it a religion, you guys. No one inside those hotels bought the pitch that this was a religion. Our parents thought it was laughable. Our parents thought it was a joke. Our parents thought it was like, oh, ha, that's what we tell the outside world to really do whatever it is that we do inside of here. That's all it
and
took.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid being like at the event, like, what? The Church of Scientology. And I was just kind of going like, oh, I guess this is a good way to have good PR with other churches so that we can get their members into our group. I remember thinking that at the event when he was like, the war is over.
So we're going to take the last 9 minutes of this live, you guys, because we have somewhere to be as well. And we're going to talk about that quickly. So we're going to just take a quick round of questions here. Diana de Williams, question. If Elvis Presley is a suppressive person, how is it possible that she can title him in every interview as the love of her life? Special treatment because of the money? Correct, Diana.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Yes. And there's also another thing where they have a blacklist that is a private blacklist for celebrities and people that are secretly not ever going to be in good standing with Scientology, but people that they need a fair or safeguard so that they can continue giving money or whatever donations that they are getting. So Priscilla Presley may never ever go up the bridge totally, which she did, by the way. I saw her on the level. Same with Lisa, on the level, at least on OT 4 or 5 at the Sandcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I forgot what I was saying.
The blacklist.
Yeah, so they have security, and OSA has a blacklist of people that are connected deeply to like John Travolta and Tom Cruise, that they have the good roads, good weather. That's what they do. Good roads, good weather. Keep the PR in for Scientology so that there's no abruption and people will leave John to his cult or his whatever, but they'll leave him alone and they'll still get the business and the movies that they wouldn't have gotten if they would have been cut off like a real SP should have been.
Well, so, and that's why I posted you guys, because there's another thing I put on my community tab and you should look at it, from L. Ron Hubbard claiming that he wanted to have the second golden age of Hollywood. So L. Ron Hubbard was really pressed to start his own talent agency. And instead of calling it CAA, they called it Scientology. And instead of paying people to do the job of a talent agency, they decided, oh, you know what? We can get sycophants here. All of these slaves there at the bottom can just really service the masters at the top, because that's the type of master-slave system that exists in these hotels. And to just finish off your question, Diane, I mean, again, these people will play dumb in any way they need to, even though they knew that Elvis hated them, even though Elvis did the ultimate suppressive act, which was to denounce them in a newspaper. To have something critical about Scientology come up in a newspaper would have immediately made him a suppressive person. So all of this stuff about, oh, it's the love of my life. How are you in love with a suppressive person, Priscilla?
And also, it's a lie. It's a big bogus lie. Priscilla, the love of love, you're not the love of somebody's fucking life at 16-year-old when you're on coke, doing fucking coke. That's not the love of your life. That's called manipulating somebody in a fucking psychotic love, weird sex relationship. Okay. That's not the love of your life. At 16, you don't even fucking know what that means. Especially when your nose is full of coke 24/7 for Elvis. Like, you weren't just any other regular fan who just happened to get pregnant.
Well, but I do have to push back because I don't think she was
Sorry.
doing that at that point. So fact check yourself on.
No, at
she was
16
doing
years old.
the only reference I found for her doing that was Michael Edwards saying that she and her were doing that then. She did say she did LSD with Elvis, but not when she was a minor. She was doing amphetamines to stay up at work and to do school. So she was doing other stuff. Agreed. And she's already
Okay.
talked
I thought
about
I
what she
read
was
something
doing.
about her when she was trying really hard not to do drugs and stuff while she was pregnant with
She was
Lisa.
taking amphetamines because she was staying up all
Right.
night and then having to go to school. So she
That's
was
what I meant.
definitely.
Okay, so not coke, but
But it's
like there's
important.
things.
Well,
Right.
no, but it's important to, like, when we say
Be
things,
very
like, we
clear.
have to be
Yep.
very, very specific. So that's
Yep.
all.
So, but what I'm saying is, like, how can you call that love and shit when you're not even clean and stepping out of the whole situation? That's what I'm saying. And
Well, I mean,
thank
again,
God Lisa made it as long as
the
she
love of
did.
her life, she was suing for a second time. Like, that's
Unfucking
the love of your
believable.
life, Priscilla. Oh, I
And
really
you're
love
not being
you.
transparent. She's
Here's
not
my
being
second
transparent and
lawsuit. I really
open.
would like to get more money. Oh, you're financially
Right.
struggling. Oh, I don't care. I need more money. So Priscilla is sick.
And
Was
Elvis Presley,
Elvis. She bled him dry, and she was jealous of
exactly.
Lisa.
That's 100% the fucking facts, because Lisa very much was very Elvis, very like the blood is there. You can see it. Yeah,
Question:
it's
do
pretty
people like
nasty.
Priscilla really leave? No. The
No.
ones that are getting the benefits are not the ones that are seeking to leave. Priscilla has no reason to leave. Why would she leave? She's been helped so much at the hotel.
They've
They tell her
enabled.
she's amazing. They tell her that she's great. They tell her that she's wonderful. They tell her that, the world would be nothing without her. They get her little silly commercials and her little movie roles that she was all about. So she has no reason to leave. And that's been to your point, enabled system. That's what's been enabling her. PK from AK comment: I'm a retired CPS social worker. Absolutely don't get why Child Protective Services don't do investigations on child abuse. Because they're cut off. All children in Scientology are cut off from mandated reporters to start with. So there's no mandated reporter around them. So there's no way to make any type of report that holds any type of weight. And, I thank you for working for CPS, and I'm sure not every CPS person is overwhelmed and you try to do your best, but in Florida, CPS is literally couldn't be more outrageously ineffective. I mean, we were all trafficked right there in their backyard, right behind the Clearwater Police Department. So,
and then you have people from the Int Ranch being shipped off, like myself at 13, going from Los Angeles to Florida. So it just looks so normal that we're all just there together in uniform. So we look a few years older than we actually are.
This question from Cassie's Corner. Laura, did JT really have unqualified babysitters watching Jet, even though he was prone to medical episodes?
1000%, Casey. And I was not the only one. I just had a good spirit. And John Travolta knew me as a child when my mom and him had seen each other at an event. And he was like, oh my God, it's Jesse Diane. Like, it was a whole thing. And so I just knew, oh, cute. I'm kind of known by John Travolta. And I thought I was so cool, And I still think I'm cool. I'm like, my mom and John Travolta knew each other. It's just like a weird thing. It's one of those things. So yes, but the sad thing is I was not an unqualified, right? I'm a Sea Org member. I'm like, my mom is in the Sea Org. So in John Travolta's mind, yeah, I'm even better than a medical doctor and things like that. So that is the norm around kids that need extra medical care or support or special needs. And Scientology doesn't acknowledge it. That's the thing. They don't acknowledge it at all.
DF says, if you could speak directly to Riley right now, what would you say to her?
If she was here right now, I would literally be like, what can we do to help you feel strong and supported to be able to say everything you really want to say and that you went through, and the suppressiveness that you've actually been held down by Scientology, and the things that they've forced her to do. The list, I'm sure she's got a list of things that she feels so shitty about doing in Scientology because she thought it was the right thing to do at the time. And the way that maybe yeah. And Riley, you're an amazing, freaking awesome soul. I've known that. I've seen it since it's no matter what position I had in Scientology at the time. We were still kids. We were still only years apart. I met you. I saw you again outside when I was out of the Sea Org and things like this. I saw you at the Art Share downtown Los Angeles, where I finally lived in my own bubble for a piece of a moment. So it's not like we didn't have similar understandings. I didn't have personal conversations with Riley about this during those times. Yes, when I was drunk on my Jack and Coke with Skrillex and Sunny at the fucking Los Angeles Arts District. So it's okay if you can't question something, Riley. That's not okay. That's unlifelike. Imagine your own daughter or son going through this. You don't want that. You want them to be able to breathe and dance and sing and feel and be. And Scientology takes away all of that. You're not allowed to have feelings that are free and open on your own. So that alone is already going to ruin your family, Riley. It already did that to you. It did it to your mom, and it's doing it to Priscilla. Priscilla pulled you all in. This is not a good legacy to leave behind that Elvis had anything to do with Scientology. So please speak out about it. You're such a strong, beautiful fucking babe. And I feel like you could do this the best. You could be the strong person you are by just speaking up and seeing and talking about the facts as they are.
That's good. If you could speak to Riley right now, what would you say to her? What I would say to her is that I'm sorry your life has been so hard in the past few years. The level of unthinkable damage could not be put into an earth calculator. And you losing Ben and your mother, I cannot even imagine what that has done. And the almost unthinkable, inconfrontable reconciliation of the context of what led your mom to be where she ended up, what led Ben to be where he ended up. And it wasn't because they were deficient, and it was nothing about them having some sort of problem of them being bad people. They were very, very good people, but they were very, very much led astray. And this is the sickness of the gaslighting spell. You are put in a position where any change, any decision you make is meant to cut you. And I understand you're dealing with already uncomfortable, impossible to reconcile loss with losing your mom and Ben, and Scientology's holding that over you because they want to continue influencing you, because they know that you can not hold your own ground, because they will weaponize anyone else that's been your support system, put there because you know them for such a long time. Oh, I've known them since they were kids. Yeah, I know Georgie since she was a kid. But as long as they have influence over the other people, they have influence over you. So I've had to cut out unthinkable people that I thought were going to be in my life for my whole life. I still wish them well. I still have love for them, but you can only put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And once you have the oxygen mask, once you are breathing actual oxygen and not gas from these people, toxic lies, toxic gas, toxic smoke and mirrors, toxic, like make it appear that we really care for you, but they've never cared for you or your family, Riley. And the proof is in the pudding, in the actions that resulted. Lisa and Ben tried to warn you as much as they could, as much as it was available to them. Nobody wants to wake up to these facts. Believe you me, None of us ever wanted to wake up to this level of facts. But, the truth is the only thing you have to be loyal to and the only thing you have to reconcile. And as long as you reconcile with that, you will be free and you will be able to live a life that your mom always wanted you to live, that Ben wanted you to live, that everybody that has loved you truly wants you to live. And you can speak up for them and you can be an advocate for them. And they need advocates because they are not here anymore because they didn't have a shred of advocate. That's the problem. When people don't have advocates and they're just being abused and everybody pretends that everything is great and wonderful, the type of manipulations your grandmother Priscilla has been all about. Everyone pretend everything is wonderful. Just everyone get along. Really stand up for the PR. Nobody cares about PR except for Priscilla and her Scientology handlers. Everybody will support you, as flawed as your family was made to be. Compliments of Priscilla ensnaring you all there. Because I saw on your Vanity Fair interview how you were not wanting to call yourself a victim and didn't want to have people think, oh, poor rich little girl. Riley, money means nothing, and money meant always nothing to you. So we understand the plight and the situation you're in, and having that name because of the way that Priscilla did you all wrong has been a curse and not a blessing. But that's all because Priscilla put you in the hands of Scientology. Your life, Lisa's life, everybody's life would have been completely different, maybe very dysfunctional. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe you would still have had a dysfunctional life, but at least it wouldn't have been ruined by the people that we know ruined it for y'all. We know how they did it, how they did your mom dirty. We know how they did you dirty. We know how they did Ben dirty and everyone else that they can literally put their fangs inside. So look after yourself. You owe it to yourself. You don't owe anyone anything or any explanations. You owe yourself to have a safe space, grounding, cut off, get rid of, disconnect from all the parasites. Once you get rid of parasites, you'll be able to reclaim your own power, because that's power. When it's organic, it's power. The way Priscilla does it is not power, because she has to try real hard. And you know what? It's giving desperate. And now that we do have a way for all of us to communicate like this, and for the Elvis fans to finally start hearing the truth about all the dysfunction, it's like they still see all this devastation over the Elvis Presley name, and all for what? Why has there been so much devastation in that family? And never mind that it's not just your family that's devastated. Ours was ravaged as well. Laura's was ravaged as well. Jenna Miscavige was ravaged as well. There's no child that grew up in Scientology whose family wasn't compromised, whose family unit wasn't compromised, whose relationship with their mother was fully compromised. The relationship with their father was fully compromised, because we never got to know our fathers because they took L. Ron Hubbard too serious, Riley. You're lucky that Lisa didn't take it as far as Priscilla did, because then you would not be even able to withstand that. I'm telling you. So I'm glad that Lisa didn't do you like that, but you can stand on the facts. You can advocate for her. You already done by putting out this book. You already done by putting Priscilla on blast for being told that a very young 9-year-old, this is the age Lisa was just about, you guys. This is when Lisa's age, approximately there, was alleged to already start being essayed by one of Priscilla's boyfriend. And imagine the trauma that carries, rightly, because that's not something you float on a needle and you really get addressed in audits. Believe you me, that was all just garbage and bullshit. So the fact that you have helped your mom put her story into context, it's already the biggest major step you've taken to actually reclaiming a legacy that is yours. Lisa wanted it to be yours. The fact that Priscilla sued you is unconscionable, indefensible, and as gaslighting and as disgusting and as manipulative as everyone that has your best interest can see. The only ones that want to continue manipulating the narrative is Priscilla and whoever wants to be a surrogate of that woman. That's what I would say.
And I would add that this therapist once told me this was a huge thing. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe it'll help hit some people. She said, Laura, your mom is not in charge of whether you have a child or not. Your mom is not, my mom is not responsible for the rest of my life because I have the last name Anderson or whatever. Like my mom doesn't have say in what I do as a mother. And that was such a weird thing to me because nobody ever told me something like that. And I couldn't believe that it was so harsh, but totally truthful. Like it's my choice. I'm the mother now. I get to be. And I loved how she said, I just want to be a good mom, and made me cry.
Well, that's very interesting as well, right? Because we're getting rid of the false hierarchy. You know, all of the Scientology stuff was hierarchy. Oh, I'm an OT this, I'm an OT that. I know more than you because I have bigger status. And now, in the aftermath of everything, we see the higher the status you had in there, the more complicity you had, the more skin in the game you had, the more you endorse all the child abusive, disgusting practices that everyone there knows are happening 24/7, 365. Everybody was groomed to think it was great and wonderful. Well, you know what? Start ungrooming yourselves at the voice of now. Come to present time now. Oh, it was very great when I did the course 6 years ago. Double check what type of course you did. Double check what type of things they taught you. Double check if there were no underage kids in those course rooms. Because the problem is that there's always underage kids in the courses, in the audits, and in the ethics. And all of that is abuse. All of that is indefensible. All of that is not a way to climb a bridge to nothing. And we would know. We were groomed since we were kids. We were all about gonna save a world. And today we are aware of how little we were saving anybody by being unwilling pawns in a scheme of which we could not consent, on which we were told to act and behave like we were slaves, Riley. So just so that you understand what Lara was doing 24/7, 365 at the sandcastle, polishing the brass as an underage child for being punished for not having the ethical standards that she needed to be in whatever other high organization.
She doesn't, I don't know if she remembers this, but her and Georgie came up with me to the ballroom and were squirting the chemicals, the alcohol, whatever, on the windows, helping me clean the fucking Fort Harrison ballroom windows. And so when security came up, because they're watching Riley's every fucking move, I was like, no, then you guys, well, then I was like, I'm putting them to work if they want to work. And I was pretending like I was being a Sea Org member, but really they just thought it was fun to hang out with me and do like how is Megan, they call me Megan, how does Meg's able to like just do like Sea Org work? Like they just couldn't fathom the life of them being in the fucking Sea Org. So I just want, like, we were all kids, and that's the whole point. And we need to go back to just be letting ourselves be that child that we were never allowed to be by exposing the things that were keeping us from being that child. And all of that is Scientology. That's warped all over Elvis Presley's blood now because of Priscilla and Lisa and now Riley not speaking out about it.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to be covering other aspects of their life to serve as a warning for all other families wanting to get involved in this. Again, children need to be advocated for, and we are begging and pleading you, Riley, to get on the right side of this issue, which is no more kids need to be growing in Scientology. And it does call for you as an adult, it does call for you as a mother to make sure that your child is nowhere made available to these people under any literal shape or form. No access. You are the only one that can impose boundaries so your child is not abused. What Scientology parents do is they outsource the boundaries to people that don't have a fiduciary duty to do well or to do right by a child. A group of people that have given themselves the capacity to, blur all manner of common sense boundaries that should never be blurred, that there should never be any reason to be blurred. And that's why it matters that you really do come forward and really use your platform to advocate for an issue that was near and dear to your mother's heart. Lisa tried to get you out. She couldn't do it. She was too weak at the end. She was struggling with too much. She was put in a position where they knock her down. They put her in that position. Your mother had a problem with her addiction because that addiction was exacerbated by the people that were around her. Do not be surprised. Don't blame your mom for all her shortcomings. Don't fall for that fake Priscilla narrative that she's put out. Oh, she was really responsible for her own condition, Riley. She pulled this all in. She should have done it different. She should have done it better.
No, she lasted as long as she could.
She did as much as she could, and she was about to go and give testimony in
to Danny Masterson. Yes.
In the court of law. So that anybody else that wanted to silence her, she was not going to have it. So unfortunately, she didn't get to have her day in court and testify. But you know what? She put everything. She did, again, what we've been saying. Anybody that wants to make amends should take a page from Lisa. You want to make amends? Go show up in court. Make that commitment. Talk to the federal prosecutors. Cooperate. Otherwise, what type of ethics change have you had? Zero. But yet you want to be granted the full immunity. Oh, I was really confused. Oh, I left the cult, so I'm part of the good guys. F you. How many years have you had to decompress? How many decades have some of you had to decompress for all of this dysfunction? And what? Laura and I are the only ones that what? Everything we talk about is everything everybody knows, you guys. That's the problem. That's the problem. The problem is everybody knows, everybody is aware, everybody went through the same program, is robotic, as moronic as it fully gets. It's a one-trick pony type of trafficking situation. As much as everybody thinks, oh, this is so complicated and so convoluted, it's the least convoluted criminal act that has ever been perpetrated on American soil, given that a convicted felon had a checklist on how to get away with all these criminal acts. So for all of you that want to be confused, stop being confused. Go get the audit records. Go get the video recordings of how many kids are being audited right now.
The J Bergsack check. Like anything. You can't even go to Flag without getting an interrogation that they call auditing. They just call it a step on the bridge. Your OT level preps. They call it preps. They're prepping you for the OT level. So anytime you even have to go to Flag, you have to go through these interrogations. And better for them, the younger the kid, the more you can get off, because the kid is able to handle it all. They're not judging you because they don't fucking know better. That's the truth. They literally don't know better. So the person coming from the outside is going, oh, look, I can just get all my shit off to this person because they're already used to hearing this. They're already used to going through this. So now I can feel better about what the fuck crimes I'm doing. You're not allowed to go to Flag and start on any step or level of the bridge that you can only do at Flag without going through a security check of this sort.
Rage Against the Dark Arts, which is another kid that grew up in Scientology, says, parental neglect is rife in Scientology. Thank you, Surgeon Laura, for advocating for the kids as we would have wanted to for the children that we were when we were there. Yeah. Well, this is a full circle moment, you guys. There's nothing There's nothing in it for any kid that grew up in Scientology being abused. Speaking out and saying and calling out the dysfunction is the only silver lining that we can do. Because again, like exactly what Miriam just said, the only power we have is that we were given a front row seat at this level of disgusting dysfunction, which should have been protected from. Kids shouldn't have been anywhere near those hotels or commercial buildings. All of our parents are aware of that fact. Any parent that tells you I wasn't aware is playing dumb at this point. So whatever your reason was, why you normalized it and you thought it was great, miss us. Miss us. Like, we literally don't have a shred of a literal giving of a fuck for why you thought this was a great idea. Ron Hubbard did pitch it. We really thought we were saving our world while making children role play to be your slaves. That's called a contrary fact. This fact and this fact don't align, so contrary. So are you saving a world but enslaving children? How? How does that work exactly, Priscilla? You that has been the face of this, by all means, start typing with your publicist how I think turning children and having them role play being slaves for adults is saving a world by Priscilla Presley. Would be great to hear how you can really defend that today with a full straight face full of Botox and fillers that you do have for yourself. Make that pitch with a straight face. Try to run that by us, the kids that were there being the slaves. Try to tell us how we were volunteers. In what world is a slave a volunteer? Can anyone really, put that on the record? Are we not getting something? Did we miss something? So, again, you guys, there's so much to decompress from, and we're going to continue doing all the heavy lifting needed, including talking to the U.S. attorney. And that's where we're headed now. So thank you guys all for watching, and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.